So the story kicks off with Rein getting a lovely surprise call from his loyal, adventuring squad. Without a hint of hesitation, the fearless leader looks him in the eye and tells him he's officially fired from the team. And because his day isn't bad enough yet, a pack of hungry wolves decide to show up for a snack. Now Rein is a beast tamer, which is basically a fancy way of saying he's really good at making friends with animals. Unfortunately, this specific job description isn't exactly known for high-octane violence or actually winning fights. Somehow, though, he actually managed to wiggle his way into a group of supposed world-class heroes. He spent every single day busting his back to support them, genuinely believing he was earning a shred of their respect. Back in the present, Rein is standing there looking completely lost, trying to process the sudden career change. He thinks maybe it's just a really poorly timed prank, but Aloes definitely forgot how to tell a joke today. With the most punchable face imaginable, he confirms that no, they are being dead serious. The rest of the squad jumps in to take turns trashing him, making it crystal clear they'd rather have a rock on the team than him. Lean lets out a pathetic little laugh while calling him completely and utterly useless. Aloes doubles down, reminding him that nobody is going to baby him anymore, since his only real skill was being a glorified luggage rack. According to them, the group's massive success had absolutely nothing to do with him being there. Rein just stands there, completely paralyzed by the sheer audacity of it all. He's genuinely struggling to wrap his head around being treated like yesterday's garbage. He really thought they were a family, or at the very least, semi-decent co-workers. While he's still reeling, they demand he hand over his gear, because apparently they're the only ones who actually worked for it. With his pride in the gutter, he starts spiraling through every memory where he felt like a total third wheel. He spent so long being protected that he's finally realizing they were probably just looking down their noses at him the entire time. The most shocking part to him is that it took this long for the light bulb to finally flicker on. Now he's just wandering aimlessly, lost in a cloud of his own depressing thoughts. His pity party gets crashed by a group of kids who actually seem excited to see him for some reason. Hoping to distract himself, Rein decides to show off a few of his underwhelming tamer tricks. He whistles for a hawk circling nearby and asks it to say hello to the tiny humans. The kids lose their minds over it, thinking it's the coolest thing they've ever seen. Once the show's over, Rein cuts the contract and lets the bird go back to doing bird things. Out of nowhere, one of the boys announces he wants to be a beast tamer when he grows up. Rein is genuinely confused and asks why he wouldn't rather be a big, famous hero instead. The kid doesn't pull any punches with his answer. He says the local hero squad is basically a collection of jerks and bullies. The kids tell Rein he's actually the cool one and that they really like having him around. They're dead set on becoming tamers and actually making something of themselves as adventurers. Getting hit with some actual kindness for once, Rein finally makes a choice. He's not quitting, he's going to keep grinding as an adventurer on his own terms. He heads straight over to the guild to see if he can salvage his dignity. He ends up chatting with Natalie, admitting he's still a bit fuzzy on how this whole solo life actually works. She's surprisingly patient while explaining the ropes so he doesn't immediately die in a ditch. Rein says thanks, and a curious Natalie asks him what his actual job class is. The moment he says Beast Tamer, he gets a nasty flashback to all the garbage Lean was spitting at him earlier. Later on, Rein has to take a practical exam to prove he's not a total liability to the guild. Natalie warned him that everyone has to do this, mostly so the guild's reputation doesn't get dragged through the mud by rookies. During the test, we find Rein out in the wild, hunting down some goblins. He actually puts in the effort, using every trick in the book until the green guys stay down. Once the dust finally settles on the fight, he thanks a local squirrel for the assist and figures it's time to head back and turn in his homework. But before he can leave, he hears a desperate scream echoing from deeper in the woods. He sprints toward the noise and runs right into a massive killer tiger, which is a real nightmare fuel monster. The beast is seconds away from turning a young girl into a snack. Armed with nothing but a tiny knife and a death wish, Rein steps in to play hero. He takes a swing, but his weapon shatters like glass on the very first hit. Naturally, the monster decides Rein looks much tastier and charges right at him. He screams at the girl to run for it, fully prepared to be the tiger's main course. But much to his shock, she doesn't move an inch toward the exit. Instead, she launches into the air and delivers a kick so violent, it deletes the monster from existence in one go. Rein is just staring, realizing he's looking at a cat spirit, one of the rarest and most dangerous things on the planet. The girl suddenly runs out of juice and starts to fall, but Rein manages to catch her before she hits the dirt. Completely spent, she leans in and whispers the most important thing on her mind: she's starving. A bit bewildered, Rein decides to hand over his own lunch to the tiny powerhouse. As it turns out, cat spirits can't use magic, but their physical stats are so broken that nobody can even touch them. After inhaling the food, she mentions she was out looking for her grandparents near the river. She introduces herself as Canade, and Rein tells her he's just a guy trying to be an adventurer. Canade gets all excited and decides they're best friends now, thanking him for saving her. When he asks what she's doing out here, she explains her people usually hide in the mountains. But she got bored and decided she wanted to see what the rest of the world was doing. She seems genuinely thrilled that she bumped into someone like Rein. She starts digging for more info on him, clearly interested in her new human friend. When she hears he got dumped by a bunch of heroes, she gets absolutely livid on his behalf. She can't fathom why anyone would treat a decent guy like him so poorly. Rein claims he's over it, though he appreciates her getting worked up for him. In return, Canade just smiles and starts acting like a literal cat, demanding some affection. Then she hits him with the ultimate offer. She thinks he's strong enough to make a family pact with her. She's basically asking him to tame her and become her official partner in crime. Rein is doubting himself as usual, but her pep talk reminds him of how helpless he felt back when he was a kid. Looking at her, he starts to think that maybe, just maybe, he could actually be someone powerful. Deep down, he realizes he doesn't just want her strength, he genuinely wants to keep hanging out with her. With that in mind, he decides to go for it and try the contract. He sets up the blood contract, creating a permanent link between their souls. Against all odds, his taming skills actually work on a high-tier creature like her. Canade accepts the bond and officially becomes the muscle of this two-person team. Rein is visibly relieved and happy that the whole process didn't blow up in his face. Canade is just as hyped, showing off the glowing symbol on her hand like a new tattoo. Rein tells her he can't wait to see what kind of trouble they can get into together. And Canade is 100% on board for the ride. Rein finally feels like he's got someone in his corner who won't just use him and throw him away. But before they can celebrate, he still has that annoying guild test to wrap up. To speed things up, Rein tames a random rabbit and tells it to go fetch its entire family. A whole army of fluffy bunnies appears and starts doing his herb gathering for him. They swarm the field, working way faster than any human ever could. Canade is just standing there, watching this weirdly efficient animal labor in awe. She points out that usually, tamers are lucky if they can handle one animal at a time. Most people definitely can't control an entire forest squad simultaneously. She's dying to know where he picked up such a bizarre and effective skill set. Rein looks genuinely surprised, admitting he thought every tamer could manage a small crowd like this. A few hours later, he turns in the loot and passes the test with flying colors. He's now an official member of the Horizon Guild, which is a nice step up from unemployed. Natalie gives him the thumbs up and even hands over a tiny bit of pocket change as a reward. Canade is waiting for him outside and starts celebrating like they just won the lottery. Rein is ready to jump into the next mission, but some random guy interrupts and starts gawking at Canade's ears. The jerk doesn't waste any time before he starts acting like a total creep toward her. She ignores him, so he decides to pivot and start making fun of Rein for being weak. That gets Canade's blood boiling, and she loudly declares that Rein is her master and way stronger than he looks. Rein introduces himself as a tamer, but the other guy just laughs like it's the funniest thing he's ever heard. He claims there's no way a supreme species like her would ever listen to a bottom-tier loser like Rein. To prove his point, he challenges Rein to a good old-fashioned arm wrestling match. Rein doesn't care about his own ego, but he's not about to let this guy disrespect his partner, so he accepts. The opponent is already acting like he's won before they even lock hands. But the second they start, Rein slams his hand down so hard it's almost embarrassing. Natalie shows up to apologize for the local idiot's behavior and tries to smooth things over. The guy is a slow learner though and tries to get handsy with her dress. She immediately loses her cool and smashes a literal table over his head. Once the trash is taken out, she apologizes to the duo for the chaotic welcome. Rein is still sitting there staring at his hand, wondering where that sudden strength came from. Canade explains that thanks to their pact, he's basically stealing some of her physical stats. He had no idea that was a thing, probably because most tamers don't tame literal gods. A bit later, the two of them head back out into the woods to pick more weeds. Canade looks a little bummed out, admitting she thought adventuring would be a bit more epic than gardening. Rein reminds her that as F-rank nobodies, they have to start at the bottom and eat their vegetables first. Meanwhile, the rabbits finish the job in record time, leaving Canade feeling pretty useless again. She barely got her hands dirty before the bunnies did all the heavy lifting. The rabbits even give her a look that says "step aside, amateur," which really grinds her gears. Just as they're packing up, Canade's ears twitch at the sound of someone crying for help. They stumble upon a group of bandits who are currently busy harassing an old man. Canade recognizes them as a notorious gang of thieves who are known for being exceptionally nasty. Watching these thugs bully a senior citizen makes Rein's blood boil, and he knows he has to step in. Canade notices the look on his face and is glad to see they're on the same page. They launch a surprise attack and proceed to mop the floor with the entire bandit crew. After saving the old guy, Canade realizes that Rein is definitely not your average, run-of-the-mill tamer. Before the fight, she was worried his body might literally fall apart from trying to use her power. But seeing how effortlessly he controlled the flow of combat, she can finally breathe a sigh of relief. She couldn't take her eyes off him while he was busy dismantling the bad guys. Her heart is racing, and she's definitely feeling a certain type of way about his performance. She even catches herself blushing after the adrenaline dies down a bit. Rein is naturally oblivious to the fact that his partner is falling for him right then and there. The old man is grateful, but he mentions that the rest of his guards were total cowards and ran away. Knowing the bandits might come back for a round two, Rein decides to hunt down the rest of the gang. Canade freaks out when she hears there are over 100 of them, but Rein already has a plan in motion. A helpful squirrel leads them right to the bandits' secret clubhouse. Canade feels bad for being a bystander again, but Rein manages to crack a joke to cheer her up. She realizes he's just trying to keep the mood light and lets out a genuine laugh. Then Rein pulls a new trick out of his sleeve, revealing he can actually tame insects as well. Canade is stunned to learn that insect taming is even a thing, since it's a super niche branch of his job. Once again, she's reminded that Rein is basically a walking cheat code in a modest outfit. He tells her to run back to town and grab some backup just in case things get messy. She's worried, but she trusts him enough to go, wishing him luck before she sprints off. While she's gone, he prepares to unleash a literal swarm of hundreds of angry bees on the hideout. Meanwhile, the heroes Lane and Mina, who were supposed to protect the old man, are busy hiding. They're mostly just cranky because Alias didn't stick around to do the hard work for them. Lane is still obsessed with trashing Rein, complaining about how useless their former teammate was. Their new tamer replacement tries to explain that his job isn't actually about getting into fistfights. Lane snidely remarks that even a loser like Rein at least tried to pretend he was helpful. Suddenly Rein appears, drowning the thieves in a sea of bees, leaving Lane absolutely speechless. Even after seeing the results, Lane refuses to admit he was wrong and threatens to kill Rein if he talks. He's having a total meltdown because he can't accept that the luggage carrier just saved the day. By the time Lane finishes his temper tantrum, every single bandit is already glued to the floor. Canade finally returns with a crowd of adventurers who can't stop singing Rein's praises. They mention that the local knights were too busy being useless to actually help out. Rein makes sure to tell Canade she did a great job, and she practically glows from the compliment. But the victory party is cut short when the entire ground starts to shake violently. A couple of massive lizard kings crawl out of the shadows, looking for a fight. The bandits were dumb enough to try and tame them, but the monsters clearly didn't get the memo and are now everyone's problem. Rein tells the other adventurers to quit gawking and get everyone to a safe zone. In the heat of the scrap, he starts to realize he's actually becoming a bit of a powerhouse. He's genuinely relieved he didn't just meet Canade, but that she's actually covering his back. After surviving the lizard buffet, the crowd waits outside, probably betting on whether they'd come out in one piece. When they finally stroll out of that cave, the city throws them a welcome party they actually earned. For the first time in forever, it clicks for Rein that he isn't just some spare part. Even better, he's realizing he'd quite like to keep Canade around for the long haul. He thanks her for the assist and admits that having her nearby makes him feel semi-competent. That night, Canade is losing her mind over how amazing a real mattress feels after living in the dirt. Rein, meanwhile, is having a minor panic attack about the logistics of sharing a room with her. Rewinding a bit, we see the bandits got hauled off to jail while Natalie showered Rein with some rare praise. The big win earned him a promotion to E rank, which is basically moving from trash to slightly better trash. They even walked away with enough cash to actually afford a decent meal. But when they try to check in for the night, the innkeeper hits them with the classic, only one bed trope. So Rein ends up stuck in a confined space with a girl who could probably kick through a wall. He's so awkward about the whole pretty girl situation that he genuinely considers sleeping on the sidewalk. Canade shuts that down immediately, not letting him escape into the night. He tries to act all noble by saying he's a guy, but she just laughs it off and says she trusts him completely. Rein tries to turn it into a teachable moment about not trusting strangers because the world is full of creeps. Canade looks at him like he's an idiot and explains she doesn't trust people, she just trusts him. She makes it clear that they're friends, so the normal rules of stranger danger don't apply. That finally gets him to stop overthinking everything and just stay in the room like a normal person. In the middle of the night, Canade watches him sleep and realizes he's actually kind of adorable when he's not stressed. She's genuinely thankful she ran into a human who doesn't have a hidden agenda for once. Being one of the last of her species meant she spent a lot of time being lonely and suspicious of everyone. Meeting Rein, a guy who helps just because he can, has completely flipped her worldview upside down. She realizes he's carrying some serious emotional baggage of his own and decides she's going to fix it. Her new mission is to help him dump that heavy past and actually find a reason to smile. A week flies by, and the duo is actually starting to enjoy the chaotic life of professional adventurers. Rein admits to himself that he's actually having fun for a change. One morning at the guild, they hear rumors about some maniac attacking people over at the Stride Bridge. Natalie tosses the job to Rein, promising that the paycheck at the end will be worth the headache. 2 hours later, they're standing on the bridge waiting for something interesting to happen. While looking for this guard dog criminal, Rein wonders why the big-shot adventurers are avoiding this guy like the plague. Canade spots something massive soaring through the clouds, and it's definitely not a very large pigeon. It's an actual dragon, and it looks like it means business. The beast slams down onto the bridge, and then shifts into a much more human-looking form. Surprise, it's actually a dragon girl who looks like she's looking for a fight. She wastes zero time challenging the two of them to a little round of physical violence. Rein puts 2 and 2 together and asks if she's the guard dog everyone's so afraid of. She says her name is Tanya and points out she's a member of the final species, so don't get cocky. Apparently, she's just been bullying adventurers as a way to get some high-stakes training in. Rein is reasonably skeptical about their survival odds, but Canade is already hyped for the scrap. And just like that, the bridge turns into a war zone. Tanya throws a punch that sends Rein flying backward, even though he managed to block the impact. She's impressed he's still breathing, so she decides to turn up the heat with some dragon fire. Rein manages to tuck and roll, but Canade takes the full blast of the flames right to the face. Now she's mad, and an angry cat spirit is basically a blender with ears. The two girls start trading blows that would probably level a small village. Rein wants to help, but he's basically a spectator in a fight between 2 hurricanes. Tanya blocks everything they throw at her and counters with enough force to crack the bridge. She starts charging up a massive fire attack that looks like it's going to end their careers early. The duo barely manages to jump out of the way before the whole area turns into a furnace. Tanya is legitimately shocked that these two aren't charcoal by now. Rein realizes they can't win with brute force, so he tells Canade to keep the dragon busy for a minute. While she plays target, he uses his Tamer tricks to keep Tanya's eyes on the wrong prize. Canade puts her total faith in Rein, even if his plan sounds a little crazy. He scans the area for a very specific type of bird and finds one hiding behind the bridge. Using his skills like a cheat code map, he tames the bird that's going to win them the fight. He tells Canade the trap is set, and it's finally time for some payback. Suddenly, Tanya is swarmed by a flock of birds that she definitely wasn't expecting. Her legs give out, and she hits the ground like a sack of potatoes. Rein explains that those birds are packing a nasty paralytic poison that even a dragon can't shrug off. Tanya realizes she's been outsmarted and throws in the towel, giving the win to the underdogs. Instead of finishing her off, Rein asks if she wants to quit being a bridge bully and join them. Tanya takes one look at him and senses that he's actually a decent guy deep down. Canade starts poking fun at her, and Tanya fires back that bad girls like Canade need to be put in their place. Back at the guild, Rein tells Natalie that the bridge menace has been officially dealt with. Natalie gets suspicious and starts asking way too many questions about the new girl Tanya. Rein just hits her with the "she's just a friend" line to keep things simple. Tanya's dragon ego almost blows their cover, which makes Rein start sweating bullets. His attempt to clear the air just makes it 10 times more confusing, so they beat a hasty retreat out of town. On the road, he begs her to keep the whole "I'm a giant fire-breathing lizard" thing on the down low. He reminds her she's a free agent now and doesn't have to spend her life attacking strangers for sport. That actually gets to her, and Tanya makes a snap decision about her future. She wants to follow Rein around and asks to join the squad officially. The group is a little stunned, but Rein figures having a dragon on the payroll isn't exactly a bad thing. She's accepted into the fold, and she even demands that he tame her so they can have that special bond. A second later, Rein fires up his beast tamer abilities to seal the deal and make it official. The spell kicks in, and a massive magic circle links his mana directly to Tanya's soul. She gets her own pact symbol and looks genuinely happy to be part of Rein's weird little family. She's ready to see the world, preferably with him leading the way. From that moment on, she starts calling him master, much to his slight discomfort. Later that night, we see Aloes and his group of heroes, looking like a bunch of kicked puppies. Turns out their latest mission was a total disaster, and they're feeling the sting. Without Rein to do all the actual work, things didn't exactly go according to plan. Aloes gets the brilliant idea that they should probably try to recruit Rein back into the group. He says he can manage a basic fireball if he tries really hard. He's convinced that Rein is such a pathetic weakling that he'll beg for the chance to come back. Back at the inn, the two girls are currently having a civil war over who gets to sleep next to him. The next day, Rein picks up a job to kill some slimes, and the girls volunteer to help him out. Apparently, other adventurers are too cool to fight slimes, so the monsters are currently eating all the farmers' crops. Canade is not a fan because slimes are basically sentient, sticky boogers that ruin her fur. Rein is just happy to see his two powerful partners aren't trying to kill each other yet. He uses his Tamer radar to track down the slime infestation in the woods. Suddenly, some of the local birds start talking with Rein's voice. He explains he can put a piece of his soul into them to use them like remote-controlled drones, which gives him a bird's-eye view of everything happening in the forest. The girls are genuinely impressed by his weirdly versatile skill set. Rein eventually finds a massive horde of slimes just chilling out in a clearing. Tanya asks him if he can actually use any real magic, or if he's just a bird guy. Tanya tells him to stop being shy and go ahead and incinerate the slimes. Even though he doesn't think his magic is worth much, he decides to give it a shot. He charges up his mana and lets it rip, causing an explosion that was definitely not basic. Tanya points out that his contract with Canade gave him super strength, and now her contract gave him dragon magic. He's basically a walking sponge for the powers of every supreme species he meets. This whole unlimited power thing is starting to make him a little nervous. When more slimes show up, they tell him to use them for target practice to get a handle on his new strength. Rein doesn't want to be the weak link on the team, so he agrees to work his butt off. He spends the rest of the day taking his training seriously under Tanya's guidance. After they finish the extermination job, they head back to the guild to cash in. A little girl runs up to them, dying to know if they beat the scary monsters. They tell her the fields are slime-free, and she gets so happy it almost makes the work worth it. Later, Rein takes the girls out for a little shopping spree to celebrate. They actually have a pretty great time acting like a normal group of friends. But at dinner, he learns that supreme species is just a fancy term for bottomless pit. The girls inhale a small mountain of food, while Rein thanks Tanya for helping him not explode with magic. They start asking him about his childhood and how he got so good with animals. Rein tells them he grew up in a village that was basically a tamer's paradise. His parents and everyone he knew spent their lives teaching him the craft. Unfortunately, that village is nothing but a memory and some scorched earth now. Canade looks like she's about to cry, feeling the weight of his story. He tells her not to worry about it, and the girls tell him he doesn't have to share if it hurts. But Rein trusts them enough to dump the whole tragic backstory on the table. He was a lonely kid who spent most of his time training by himself in the woods. One day, the sky turned the color of blood, and he knew something was horribly wrong. By the time he got home, the entire village was being deleted by a literal firestorm. He was the only one who made it out, rescued by a random adventurer who felt sorry for him. Years later, he met Aloes and thought he'd finally found a group of real heroes. He jumped at the invitation, hoping he could finally stop something like that from happening again. But as it turns out, working for heroes was just a different kind of nightmare. The world wasn't as black and white as he wanted it to be. Canade sees his hands shaking and finally understands why he's always the first to jump into a meat grinder. She gets it now. He has a pathological need to put everyone else's life before his own safety. It makes her like him even more, which is probably getting dangerous. The girls tell him he's the best teacher they could ask for and that they genuinely respect him. They even offer to go track down his old team and beat them up, but he says he isn't that petty. A few days later, the trio heads out to go thin the local orc population. Canade and Tanya decide to turn the hunt into a competition to see who's more lethal. Tanya is deleting orcs left and right without even breaking a sweat. Rein reminds them that orcs might be weak, but they're smart enough to play dirty. He tells them to stay sharp, but they're already too deep in their own hype. Tanya thinks orcs are beneath her, so she keeps charging in like she's invincible. That arrogance backfires when an orc lures her into a trap she definitely should have seen coming. Rein has to dive in to save her from a backstab and takes a nasty hit to the arm for his trouble. He just brushes it off and starts collecting the loot like nothing happened. But Tanya is currently drowning in guilt for being the reason he got hurt. Back at the guild, Rein gets paid, but he can tell Tanya is acting like her dog just died. The little girl from before asks how their day went and notices the vibe is way off. She genuinely thinks Tanya caught a fever because she looks so miserable. Tanya is just replaying the mistake in her head over and over again. She finally realizes that Rein only took that hit because he actually gives a damn about her. She's mortified that she ignored his advice and ended up being a liability. Rein finds her moping, and she finally manages to squeeze out an apology. He just tells her that he and Canade are just glad she's still in one piece. Later that night, Tanya watches him sleep and realizes she's never met anyone this selfless. She's officially fallen for him, and she's not even trying to fight it anymore. Even though they've only been a team for 5 minutes, she wants to stay forever. She's decided she's going to be by his side until the world ends. A few days pass, and Tanya suggests Rein go buy some gear that isn't falling apart. Canade is complaining about her stomach, so Rein promises food before the shopping trip. But then he freezes in the middle of the street like he just saw a ghost. He's looking straight at his old squad, and the mood goes from 0 to toxic instantly. Rein tries to walk away, but Aloes can't help himself and starts throwing insults. Tanya isn't having it and tells the hero to shut his mouth before she shuts it for him. The heroes finally realize that Rein is casually strolling around with 2 of the rarest beings alive. They're absolutely floored that these 2 powerhouses are actually taking orders from Rein. Canade is fuming because these idiots are still treating her partner like he's their personal butler. In the middle of the standoff, they ask if Rein remembers what happened during that last job in the Lost Forest. Aloes explain that the squad was stuck because the paths kept shifting like a glitchy GPS. He had the nerve to ask Rein for help, but his tone was dripping with pure condescension. The heroes basically told Rein he should feel honored just to be their unpaid intern again. Rein shut that down fast, wanting nothing more than to head back to town and forget they existed. Then Mina dropped a bombshell. A legendary relic needed to stop the Demon King was in that forest. That news definitely caught Rein off guard. He realized these clowns didn't stand a chance against the big bad without those magical artifacts. He thought back to his own childhood trauma and decided he couldn't let the world burn. So he gave Aloes and the rest of the Ego Trip squad one more shot to not mess up. Suddenly, Canade and Tanya showed up to crash the party and back Rein up. Canade made it clear they were coming along to the Lost Forest. But first, she demanded a public apology for all the trash they'd been talking. Naturally, Aloes didn't show a single ounce of actual regret. That's when Tanya threatened to turn them into charcoal, reminding them she's a literal fire-breathing dragon. Despite the threat of incineration, Aloes just couldn't help himself and kept poking the bear. He told Rein to go play with his pets, throwing some serious shade at the girls. He kept flapping his gums until Rein finally snapped and introduced Alo's face to his fist. Alo's was absolutely stunned. He couldn't wrap his head around being clocked by a lowly Tamer, but Rein was done playing nice. The gauntlet was thrown. It was time for a full-blown squad versus squad showdown. Rein accepted the challenge, and everyone marched into the woods for a little therapeutic violence. Canade saw red when Agath started making low-blow jokes about Rein's abilities. She lunged at him without a second thought, and her raw power caught Agath totally off guard. He didn't think a cat's spirit could actually hit like a freight train. Even with his bells rung, he wasn't ready to call it quits just yet. He tried to pull some secret move to save face, but Canade dodged it like he was standing still. She mockingly told him that a toddler would probably give her a better workout. Agath was in total denial about how badly he was losing this fight. He claimed he was holding back, so Canade mentioned she was only at about 50% herself. Hearing that, Agath finally realized he was in way over his head. He had a sinking feeling this was his retirement match, and he wasn't wrong. He got folded like laundry, and Canade wondered if she maybe overdid it just a bit. Meanwhile, Tanya was squaring up against the two hero girls who thought they were hot stuff. They tried to blast her with a high-level spell, but Tanya just blinked and nullified their magic. Lean tried to double down, convinced that if they just tried harder, math would stop existing. But Tanya shut them down again, explaining that dragon magic is basically a giant cancel button. Slowly, it started to sink in that you don't bring a sparkler to a dragon fight. Their egos were bruised, but they still weren't ready to admit they were completely outclassed. Tanya then dropped the truth bomb that Rein was actually the scariest one in their group. They tried one more desperate move, but Tanya was clearly just playing with her food at this point. Tanya decided to show them what actual divine tier magic looks like and started charging up. The girls went from arrogant to begging for their lives in about 3 seconds flat. In the end, Tanya let them off the hook, laughing because the whole doom spell was just a massive bluff. Across the field, Alo's was still talking trash to Rein, claiming Rein stood no chance, but Rein decided to let his fists do the talking. Rein told him to zip it since his monologue was getting boring and lunged in. Alo's swung his sword with everything he had, trying to end it quickly. Rein respected the speed, but compared to Tanya's fireballs, this felt like slow motion. He realized that hanging out with supreme species had made normal human attacks look like a joke. He saw a gap in Alo's defense and buried a punch deep into his gut. Alo's could barely breathe, let alone comprehend how a Tamer could hit that hard. He was choking on his own ego while trying to understand the power gap. Rein told him this is what happens when a Tamer actually puts in the work. He pointed out that he'd spent years studying their every move, so he knew exactly where to hit. He told Alo straight up that his winning streak was officially over. Alo started laughing like a maniac, claiming he hadn't even used his ultimate move yet. But as he tried to cast it, Rein countered with a fireball that sent him reeling. Alo's went into a panic, spamming spells that Rein just danced around like a pro. Rein started doing the math in his head to find the perfect finishing blow. Suddenly, Alo's limbs went dead. He'd been hit with a subtle Tamer's seal. Rein had used his core skills to lock the hero in place and end the show. He told Alo's he was still pretty heated about the insults toward Canade and Tanya. He put Alo's out of his misery with a final punch that sent him straight to sleep. The girls came running over, cheering because they finally humiliated the fake heroes. A bit later, the group made it to the edge of the infamous Lost Woods. Tanya was ready to just burn the whole forest down, but Rein had to be the voice of reason. He reminded her they were looking for the Shield of Truth, and fire isn't great for finding relics. Rein checked the map and realized Alo's had given him a complete piece of fiction. We flash back a bit to when the hero group gave a pathetic, forced apology. Rein accepted it just to get the job done and find the shield. But Alo's couldn't keep his mouth shut, nearly causing another brawl on the spot. The girls were officially done with the idea of helping those losers. Tanya boasted she could probably solo the Demon King without a hero anyway. Rein knew they were just trying to protect his feelings and stay loyal. He told them he really appreciated them having his back through the mess. The duo promised to stick with him until the shield was safely in their hands. Rein tamed a bird to scout ahead, trying to navigate the confusing depths of the woods. He eventually came to, and Canade was practically vibrating with excitement for the mission. They hiked for a while, only to realize they'd walked in a perfect circle like idiots. Canade thought she'd lost her internal compass, but Tanya smelled a magical rat. She cast a detection spell, and a red glow lit up the area in front of them. It turned out a nearby tree was pumping out illusion magic to keep them lost. Canade was lost, so Tanya broke down how the barrier was protecting the tree. Tanya was about to blast it into splinters when a voice like ice told her to stop. A fairy appeared out of thin air, looking less than pleased to see them. Rein immediately recognized her as another member of a supreme race. He knew fairy magic was on a whole different level, even compared to Tanya's. He also remembered that fairies generally want to delete humans on sight. They'd been missing for 2 centuries, probably enjoying the peace and quiet. Rein tried to talk his way in, but the fairy told them to get lost or get dead. She started winding up a nuke of a spell, and the group had to scramble for cover. Canade was disappointed because she thought fairies were supposed to be cute and tiny. But Rein could tell there was something weird about the barrier she was guarding. The math wasn't adding up regarding why she was showing herself now. Tanya wanted to just brute force the barrier, but Rein insisted on one more civil chat. The girls rolled their eyes but agreed to back him up, because that's just what he does. They knew he was too stubborn to just give up on a conversation. Rein walked back into the clearing and told the fairy he just wanted to talk. He told her she could take a shot at him as long as she left his friends out of it. The girls wanted to jump in front of him, but he told them he had to handle this his way. He thought about his early days as a tamer and decided to trust his gut. He stood his ground and let the fairy's magic hit him square in the chest. The fairy was visibly confused by his lack of a survival instinct. She realized Rein wasn't like the humans who burned her forest down centuries ago. Even so, she wasn't ready to invite him over for tea just yet. She sent another blast his way, but Canade and Tanya jumped in to shield him. They told her she'd have to go through them before touching a hair on Rein's head. Canade gave her a passionate speech about how Rein was actually one of the good ones. Finally, the fairy lowered her guard and decided to actually use her words. She agreed to at least hear what they had to say. The fairy Sora explained the shield was inside the barrier, but she couldn't let them in. If she dropped the shield, it would leave the entire fairy village exposed to the world. Then Sora just teleported, grabbed the shield and popped back out like it was nothing. Rein felt a bit silly about all the drama and wanted to pay her back for the help. Sora tried to act like she didn't need anything, but her eyes were telling a different story. Rein called her out on the sadness she was hiding and asked what was really wrong. She hesitated, worried that involving humans would just lead to more disaster. But Rein wouldn't let it go, and eventually she decided to spill the tea. She told him she had a little sister named Runner who meant everything to her. They used to guard the village's magical firewall together every day. One day they chased a weird vibe into the woods and ran into a real problem. They got ambushed by a high-ranking monster from the Demon King's private collection. Their fairy magic didn't do squat against it, and Runner ended up getting kidnapped. Rein realized she was talking about the Shadow Knight, a guy who eats magic for breakfast. The knight demanded Sora drop the barrier, but she chose her village over her sister. She couldn't risk letting a monster into their secret hideout. Even the village elder told her to just let Runner go for the greater good. They decided one life wasn't worth the risk to the rest of the fairy population. Rein thought that was complete garbage and promised to get Runner back. Sora finally broke down and cried, but they were actually happy tears this time. Rein was locked in. He was going to save that kid no matter what stood in his way. Sora warned him that the clock was ticking down to the final sunset. If the barrier didn't come down by then, the Shadow Knight was going to finish Runner off. Rein told her to stay put while they went to go handle business. They tracked down the knight's lair and got ready to cause some problems. Rein opened up with a fireball just to make sure the knight was looking at him. With the knight distracted, the girls rushed in to deliver some physical therapy. The knight was genuinely confused by how coordinated they were. He wondered if he was actually fighting the legendary hero group for a second. The knight tried to use Runner as a human shield, but Tanya swatted his attack away. Rein gave her a quick shout-out, which made her day significantly better. Then Canade and Rein teamed up for a double-team move that looked pretty impressive. The knight wasn't done yet though, and whipped up a massive magical hurricane. Rein told Canade to keep the pressure on while he went to go break the knight's focus. He summoned a swarm of bees to turn the knight into a pincushion for a few seconds. The distraction worked perfectly, leaving the knight wide open for a real hit. Rein gave Canade the signal to end it, and she didn't need to be told twice. She tapped into her full cat spirit potential and moved faster than a camera could track. She landed a punch that would have leveled a skyscraper right in the knight's chest. The knight just looked at her in shock before dissolving into nothingness. Canade was dying to know the secrets behind that high-level spell. Rein explained it was actually a rare piece of Tamer-specific magic. Even Tanya, who strolled in a second later, looked genuinely stunned. Apparently, her specific boost spell was considered lost to history. Canade decided they deserved a victory party and started hitting her best poses. Runner finally woke up, and Rein told her that her sister was her savior. Hours later, the twins reunited, and Sora thanked the crew for saving her sister. Sora started teasing Rein, making him realize that despite their different vibes, the twins were identical. Canade suggested they all move in together, but the sisters were done with the forest. Rein gave them a fair warning that the woods weren't exactly a 5-star resort. Then Canade popped the big question, did they want to join the squad? The fairies admitted they trusted Rein enough to tag along for the ride. More importantly, they wanted to sign a family contract with him right then. Rein was absolutely floored by the offer. Taming a pair of fairies wasn't exactly on his bingo card for today. With Tanya cheering him on, he decided to roll the dice on it. He began the ritual, weaving the complex magic needed for top-tier creatures. He threw down the magic circle, and surprisingly, the twins accepted the link. The contract was officially signed and sealed. The girls were thrilled, and Rein was feeling the win. Well, until his mana hit 0, because taming 2 final species is exhausting. That's when Tanya and Canade realized they had some serious new competition. Rein's future was suddenly looking a lot more crowded and complicated. Later, Rein met Aloes, whose attitude made the girls want to get violent. The heroes were salty that Rein found the shield in 2 days flat. Mina did a quick check and confirmed the shield was the real deal. The hero squad looked like they'd just swallowed a lemon in shock. Aloes tried to pry about the fairies, but Rein told him to mind himself. He grabbed his gold, happy to never see their punchable faces ever again. Suddenly, Agath crawled back, asking if Rein wanted his old job back. Aloes hated it, but Agath and the others knew they were totally screwed. They finally admitted that they actually needed Rein to function. Agath even promised to stop being a jerk if he came back home. But Rein wasn't about to forget being treated like yesterday's trash. The girls showed up right on cue, reminding him he had a real team. Rein rejected the heroes, choosing his new life with his 4 loyal companions. They walked off laughing, while Aloes stood there stewing in his own bile. His reason for being a hater was actually pretty pathetic. He just couldn't handle the fact that Rein was actually better than him. Later, the girls wondered if only a designated hero could win the war. Rein told them the legend of a man chosen by gods to save everyone. That specific guy was the one who set the bar for every hero. Apparently, only someone with that title can truly break their level caps. Canade called Aloes a weakling, but Rein figured the guy would eventually scale up. Runner pointed out that Rein was basically doing the hero's job anyway. His power level had spiked massively since they all signed their contracts. Canade joked that if he tamed a few more gods, the Demon King was toast. The girls were convinced he was the chosen one, but Rein felt too small. He admitted he wanted to help, but his self-esteem was still in the gutter. He promised to think about it, though world-saving sounds like a lot. For now, he just wanted some peace and quiet with his favorite girls. Canade vowed to be his shield forever, leaving Rein to ponder his future path. Meanwhile, Aloes was having a total meltdown in the background. His ego was so bruised that he was actually plotting Rein's murder. Fast forward a few days, and Rein woke up surrounded by sleeping beauties. Tanya almost caught him staring, and they all sat down for some breakfast. Tanya mentioned she needed some gear that wasn't complete garbage. Rein agreed, thinking a shopping trip was the perfect way to spend the day. They hit the town, and he noticed the twins were still terrified of humans. Some adventurers recognized Tanya and started fangirling because she beat them up. Canade even got a free apple just for being a decent person earlier. A bunch of kids showed up, convinced Rein was building a literal harem. Runner turned bright red but thanked the kids for calling her pretty. Sora tried to pull some magic out, but Rein had to shut that down. Runner explained that Sora's wings would pop out and cause a total panic. Eventually, they ducked into the best weapon shop in the entire city. Rein told the owner, Gantz, that he was looking to upgrade his kit. Sora suggested a whip, mostly just to be provocative and annoying. Her big sister gave her a piece of her mind for being so inappropriate. Sora eventually apologized for being a little brat about the whole thing. Rein spotted a dagger that gave off a really weird, suspicious energy. Just then, a random adventurer walked in looking for something sharp. The owner sold him a sword, but Rein could tell it was a lemon. The guy left happy, but Rein asked Gantz what the deal was with the fakes. The smith laughed, admitting he made those junkers just for the tourists. It was a test to see which adventurers actually knew their stuff. He wasn't about to waste his masterpieces on someone who couldn't tell the difference. Tanya respected the gatekeeping, and they became fast friends over the craft. The smith asked Rein how he managed to spot the fraud so easily. Rein guessed it was just his tamer senses tingling in the right direction. Gantz was charmed, but the girls reminded him Rein wasn't for sale. Gantz laughed it off and promised to forge Rein something truly special. Later at the guild, they saw Aloes was still trying to find a replacement. Tanya and Canade tried to cheer Rein up, even though he said he was fine. The twins started getting a little possessive of their favorite master. Natalie met the sisters, but Sora immediately started causing a scene. Rein had to jump in and explain that Sora is just professionally annoying. Then he showed Natalie the mission to find some mithril for Gantz. Apparently, the rare ore was being hoarded by people making fancy watches. Tanya was all in on helping the smith, and the search was officially on. The whole squad wanted to investigate why the mines were suddenly coming up empty. Gantz was stoked and even offered to do the custom work for free. The blacksmith was finally in high spirits about the future project. A few hours later, they were hiking to the mine with Canade assisting. Inside, the thieves realized their scouts had been turned into speed bumps. They realized the twins had some high-tier magic Rein couldn't even dream of. They took a quick breather by a lake to recharge their batteries. Rein tamed a couple of squirrels to act as tiny, fluffy bodyguards. He told them to watch the girls while he caught some Z's. The girls hit the water, and the twins felt a bit insecure about their builds. Finally, they reached the mine to figure out where the ore went. Rein spotted some shady guys leaving and an eagle watching from above. The girls took them out before they could even finish their morning coffee. Runner used her magic to dive into their brains, which was a bit terrifying. The scan showed a rival group was definitely the one stealing the goods. The twins demanded head pats as payment, making the other girls super jealous. Rein told everyone to lock in because they were heading into the pit. He warned them that a rival Tamer was likely waiting for them inside. They tried to ambush the squad, but the twins just swallowed their fireballs whole. The twins then deleted every spell the thieves tried to throw at them. Tanya and Canade finished off the stragglers with a bit of the old ultraviolence. They rounded up the crew, certain that Rein would crush their leader. The boss lost the brawl quickly, so he summoned a B-rank nightmare. A massive behemoth appeared, looking like it wanted to eat the world. Rein actually managed to tame the beast that had haunted him since childhood. It was an absolute middle finger to all the rules of taming. But Rein got hit during the chaos, and the beast's removal left him dazed. He was still mostly worried about the safety of his team over his own. She reached him just in time to stop things from getting fatal. Canade saw him bleeding and sprinted over to save her future husband. Rein gave her the play-by-play for the win while she patched him up. The enemy leader was screaming that they were all going to die in the mine. Then the behemoth decided it was time to finish Rein once and for all. Rein tried to counter with a fireball, but his mana was basically non-existent. The spell fizzled out, and things were looking pretty grim for a second. Canade already had the bad guy in custody, but Rein wasn't done yet. He used a spell that just made the behemoth want to kill him even more. He remembered Canade's faith in him and tapped into his hidden reserves. That burst of confidence was exactly what he needed to stop the beast. He forced his will on the monster until it finally knelt before him. The behemoth stopped its rampage and became a very large, scaly puppy. The thief was losing his mind, screaming that nobody should be able to do that. Canade was just standing there, looking like a proud, supportive girlfriend. The old master kept shouting, so the behemoth decided to eat him. Rein had to put the beast down with a fireball just to save the jerk. He realized the behemoth only lashed out because it was treated like garbage. He felt sick that an innocent creature had to die for a human's ego. They found out the thieves were only there because the smith had scammed them. Gantz realized he'd been a snake and felt like a total piece of work. Rein told him everyone makes mistakes as long as he doesn't do it again. Gantz got hyped and asked what kind of gear Rein really wanted. Rein whispered the details for a very specific, high-stakes piece of armor. He needed an S-rank gauntlet for a fight he knew was coming tonight. Meanwhile, some random Tamer tried to join the heroes and got laughed at. Aloes treated him like dirt, even though the guy was just trying to help. Aloes asked if he could tame gods, and the Tamer said that was impossible. Mina knew the candidate pool was decent, but she also knew nobody could fill the hole Rein left behind. She had to face the facts. Finding a Tamer with that kind of specific utility was basically impossible. She tried asking Aloes if his standards were a bit too toxic, but he just got triggered by the suggestion. Unfortunately, if Aloes wasn't happy, the whole save the world from the Demon King plan was on pause. Mina offered a fake apology for her rudeness before walking out, reminding him that the world won't save itself. But Aloes wasn't thinking about world peace. He was busy stroking a ring and plotting a dark revenge against Rein. The next morning, Aloes checked in with Natalie and heard the news that the local thieves were finally behind bars. He felt a tiny spark of sympathy for them, which is rich coming from him. The twins noticed Rein was having a bit of a mood and decided to cheer him up, so he promised them a shopping trip. Since the other two girls were still hibernating, the twins decided to secure a hot dog for their favorite master. The girls were curious if Rein had developed any new perks since they signed their life away to him. He checked his stats, but everything seemed pretty much the same as before. They were banking on him unlocking some ultimate magic, so when he didn't, they got depressed thinking they were useless. Rein had to stop the pity party and give them a quick motivational speech. They couldn't wrap their heads around why a human would actually trust them this much. The reason was actually pretty straightforward. He'd saved their skins, and they felt like freeloaders because they hadn't really paid him back yet. So Rein trauma-dumped a bit, telling them how the heroes treated him like he was a total waste of oxygen. The girls were ready to hunt Aloes down after hearing how he treated their favorite human. Rein told them that despite the hero drama, he finally felt like he had a real squad. That bit of honesty finally made them realize that his faith in them was the real deal. They decided to wake the others for breakfast, but then a localized disaster showed up. An arrogant noble appeared out of nowhere, hit on the twins, and immediately made everything awkward. He introduced himself as Mr. Handsome, which is a bold choice for someone with that face. Sora was visibly disgusted by the name and the man attached to it. The girls got a bad vibe from Eddie, who claimed his daddy owned every brick in Horizon. The twins told him to kick rocks, so Eddie threw a tantrum and ordered his guards to kidnap them. When the guards tried to touch the twins, Rein folded them like laundry and told Eddie to back off. Eddie, thinking he was the main character, took the bystanders hostage to force a win. He basically called the townspeople tools, leaving Rein in a sticky spot trying to save everyone at once. The twins offered to nuke the place with magic, but Rein didn't want the paperwork of a destroyed city. Rein tapped into his brain and realized he'd actually picked up a pretty cracked new ability. He launched a volley of fireballs that the twins immediately recognized as high-tier fairy magic. He wrecked Eddie before the coward could bolt, but Eddie promised he'd be back with a vengeance. The girls were swooning over Rein's protection, and the townspeople were just glad to be alive. Suddenly, a local grandma told Rein he should probably leave town before things got even weirder. Meanwhile, Aloes was in a basement somewhere planning to use a cursed ring to ruin everyone's day. Back at the inn, Runner pointed out that Rein had learned a serious move, which was news to him. He filled the girls in on Eddie, and they realized the noble was basically a human trafficker. He treated women like collectibles, which didn't sit well with the squad at all. Tanya decided Eddie needed a reality check and started looking for ways to get him cancelled. Rein wanted to save the city, but he was still stuck in that I'm just a tamer headspace. The girls told him to quit being a solo act and let them help him do the heavy lifting. They saw right through his "I'll handle it" attitude and decided to form a united front. Rein was stoked to have his girls backing him up while they plotted a midnight justice run. That night, Eddie's dad found out his son was a psycho, but basically just shrugged it off. Eddie told Gilbert, the captain of the guards, to make sure no snitches left the house. He handed over some hush money to get Gilbert to stalk Rein for a bit. Then Eddie brought a girl into the room just to use her for target practice like a total creep. The poor girl was just praying for anyone with a moral compass to bust through the door. The next day, Rein went to the guards HQ to file a report on the Mal brawl from yesterday. But the knights there basically told him to stop being dramatic and called it a minor scuffle. Rein smelled a bribe, and a random woman confirmed that the guard was basically on Eddie's peril. Right then, the only person with a spine, Vice Captain Stella, made her grand entrance. Rein went off on her, saying it was embarrassing that he, a Tamer, did more work than the entire guard. Stella liked his energy and asked him to help her purge the corruption from the inside. She told him her plan to take down Gilbert and make the city of Horizon actually safe again. The squad liked Stella's vibe, so Rein agreed to join her little revolution. Stella actually teared up because she finally found someone who wasn't a total sellout in this city. Rein was feeling a bit flattered while they started drawing up a tactical map. They started talking logistics on how to take down the corrupt guards without getting caught. Rein suggested a classic bait-and switch trap and walked her through the whole strategy. He also got a delivery from Gant, a brand new high-spec S-rank gauntlet for the occasion. By nightfall, the guards were camped out at the mansion, waiting for a fight that was already coming. Gilbert knew Stella was up to something, but he was too busy being a villain to care. He told his goons to stay alert, but they were already 10 steps behind the Tamer. They got jumped in the dark before they could even draw their swords. Rein blocked the exits and started putting the guards to sleep with his new Gucci tier gauntlet. He joked that his gear was a high-end collaboration, perfect for a night of stealthy violence. Gilbert managed to parry a hit and finally spotted where Rein was hiding in the shadows. Stella told him to give up while he was ahead, since they had all the receipts on his crimes. But the captain wasn't going down without trying to commit a little more murder first. He drew his weapon, fully intending to make Stella the first casualty of the night. She took the bait, and Gilbert started a villain monologue about how justice is for suckers. They started clashing steel in the middle of the yard while the rest of the guard watched. Stella almost got overwhelmed, but she managed to tap into her heroic second wind energy. She remembered when Gilbert was a decent guy before he traded his soul for a paycheck. She landed a decisive strike that ended the duel and Gilbert's career at the same time. She actually cried a little, bummed out that her mentor became a corporate sellout for criminals. With him out of the way, the next step was dragging Eddie and his dad to a prison cell. While the revolution was happening outside, Eddie was busy being a domestic terrorist to Nina. Suddenly, Aloes walked in, offering to help Eddie kill Rein because he's a professional hater. He warned Eddie that Rein's harem of goddesses was actually dangerous if he wasn't careful. He handed Eddie a cursed item, basically a magical nuclear option to deal with the Tamer. Nina lay on the floor, thinking back to when life didn't involve being a noble's punching bag. She'd been locked up for so long, she was basically just waiting for the credits to roll on her life. Meanwhile, Stella and the good guards were knocking on the front door with a warrant. She demanded an inspection of the estate, but the remaining guards were playing dumb. She told them Gilbert was already in cuffs, but they decided to pick a fight anyway. The squad told the guards they were about to have a very bad night if they didn't move. Reinforcements showed up, and a full-scale riot broke out in the front yard of the mansion. Eddie watched the chaos through the window, feeling confident because he had a cursed cheat code. By this time, Rein had already snuck into the building through the back like a pro. Runner scanned the place for hostages, but picked up a massive magical reading instead. She told Rein the energy was off the charts, definitely not something a normal human has. Rein figured it was another one of the final species and decided to go investigate. He told the twins to keep looking for the girls while he went to check out the mystery power. He apologized to the girls for making them do the legwork and told them to be careful out there. Everyone split up to cover more ground, while Rein followed the magical GPS to the source. He busted into a room and found a fox-tailed girl who looked like she'd been through a blender. He knew instantly she was one of the big ones, another legendary species in cages. He picked the lock in record time and threw a healing spell on her immediately. He told her the rescue party had arrived and she could stop worrying about Eddie. Nina was so relieved, she basically tackled him with a hug as soon as the door opened. We see the flashback of when Eddie kidnapped her by threatening to kill a bunch of kids. She didn't want a bloodbath on her conscience, so she let the jerk take her away. He slapped a power-dampening collar on her and treated her like a personal stress ball. She spent her days getting beat down until she forgot what it was like to be human. Rein was disgusted by the story and started working on the magical collar right away. Nina warned him it was rigged with a trap, but he wasn't about to leave her stuck. He tried to use his Tamer skills to hack the magic, but it was tougher than it looked. Nina told him to just leave her behind because she didn't think her life was worth the risk. She thought nobody would care if she died, but Rein gave her a stern "not on my watch." He went full hacker mode on the collar until he finally heard the magic click and break. The collar fell off, and Nina was finally free to be the powerhouse she actually is. While Rein was playing hero, Tanya and Canade were outside absolutely wrecking the mansion guards. Tanya was complaining that the guards weren't even a good warm-up for her. The goons tried to use the hostages as shields again, but the twins teleported in like ninjas. They moved the prisoners to a safe house before the guards could even blink. Then the rest of the squad went back to folding the guards into pretzels. Eddie told his dad to save himself while he went to go find a weapon to deal with Rein. A few minutes later, Rein regrouped with the squad in the middle of the hallway. They met Nina and immediately started treating her like a new kitten they just found. Tanya tried to be cool about it, but Nina was clearly overwhelmed by all the new faces. Canade let Nina use her as a human security blanket until she stopped shaking. Rein told Stella to stay frosty because the final boss was still lurking somewhere. The Lord of the City showed up to bolt, but Rein caught him with the gauntlet before he reached the door. Then Eddie walked in and summoned a literal Reaper with his cursed Walmart-tier magic. The Reaper lunged at Rein, and Canade was too far away to play bodyguard this time. Aloes was watching from the sidelines, probably popping popcorn and waiting for Rein to die. Surprisingly, Rein just shrugged off the attack like it was a mosquito bite. The girls were losing their minds, but he was standing there looking totally fine. They explained that the Reaper's move was supposed to be a one-shot kill spell. Runner decided to test a theory and hit Rein with a lethal poison spell just for fun. She figured out he has a passive ability that makes him immune to status effects, but the others yelled at her for it. Eddie was losing his mind because his ultimate weapon didn't even leave a scratch. The cursed item started whispering to Eddie, promising him power if he just let go of his sanity. Rein watched the item transform into something that looked like a bad fever dream. He launched a fire attack at Eddie, but it just bounced off a wall of black slime. Right on cue, a high-ranking demon named Blackbeard decides to make an entrance. Rein completely freezes up, because this monster looks exactly like the one that deleted his village years ago. But the fear turns into pure spite pretty quickly. He is not about to let history repeat itself on his watch. The demon casually mentions he's in the mood for a massacre and starts flying toward Horizon like a guided missile. Rein realizes the demon is targeting the civilians, but he's terrified of dragging his friends into a literal meat grinder. Then he sees the look in the girls' eyes. They aren't planning on sitting this one out. Nina tries to jump in too, but Rein tells her to stay back since she's still recovering from her noble house trauma. He gives her a cheesy promise that he'll be back before dinner. With that, the squad heads out to go demon hunting. Blackbeard starts raining down magical nukes on Horizon, like it's a 4th of July show gone wrong. Suddenly, Rein and his powerhouse harem show up to put a damper on the demon's fun. The demon just laughs, clearly thrilled to finally have some decent punching bags. Canade takes the first swing, and the whole group starts chaining attacks like they're in a high-stakes fighting game. He shrugs off the initial hits, but then the twins hit him with a lightning bolt that could power a city for a month. The group pauses for a second, hoping he's toasted, but he walks out of the smoke without a scratch. Blackbeard gives them a menacing look, while Canade and the others try to find a gap in his ridiculous defense. Without a hint of warning, Canade takes a massive fire breath attack straight to the chest. Tanya jumps in to play interference, while Rein rushes over to patch Canade's scorched fur. Unfortunately, Tanya finds out the hard way that the demon's power level is way higher than her own. She manages to tank the hit, and Rein lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding when she stays standing. Blackbeard is having the time of his life and starts spamming high-tier spells just to see what happens. The city starts looking like a construction site in reverse, and Rein is absolutely fuming. He launches a fireball at Blackbeard, mostly just to remind the demon that he's the one he should be fighting. Then he pops his multi-boost spell to let Tanya and Canade finally take the training wheels off. The two of them hit the demon with a combined strike that actually managed to pin him to the pavement. But Rein notices a problem. Despite the flashy attacks, the demon's health bar hasn't even budged. Blackbeard grins and uses his cheat code fruit power to summon a literal zoo of demonic pets to do his dirty work. He starts flying away, announcing his plan to turn the rest of Horizon into a parking lot. Tanya tries to chase him, but the demon uses his new pets as a meat shield, blocking every path like a magical traffic jam. Rein wants to follow the black demon, but he can't just leave the townspeople to get eaten by the leftovers. That's when the twins mention they have a get-out-of-jail-free card in the form of mass teleportation. They can move the entire population to a safe zone if Rein gives them the green light. They want to prove their worth, and Rein decides to put the city's fate in their tiny hands. Meanwhile, the hero squad is busy having a board meeting about their priorities. Mina wants to actually save people, but Alo says they shouldn't waste time on side quests when the Demon King is the main goal. On the other side of town, Stella is barking orders to evacuate, trying to keep her soldiers from running for the hills. The twins show up and explain the teleportation plan, which sounds like crazy talk to the average knight. Mina is skeptical, but the twins tell her to just trust the process and keep her chin up. Rein's group is busy playing whack-a-mole with the demons, guiding the residents toward the evacuation point. He's shouting directions like a traffic cop in a war zone. But the demons spawn just keep coming like a bad case of termites. The twins are ready to port everyone out, but the villagers are suspicious of the magical glitter girls. Luckily, the hot dog guy speaks up, saying he'd trust a fairy over a politician any day. Once the ice is broken, the whole group piles in, and the twins start zapping people to safety like a high-speed elevator. Turns out Natalie had actually reached out to the guild for a little coordinated support. Gantz shows up with a fresh shipment of beating stuff up tools, and the local adventurers actually step up to help. They clear a runway for Rein's squad, who are genuinely touched by the backup. The twins finish the mass teleport, clearing the city of any unintentional targets. Nina sees everyone putting their lives on the line and decides her retirement is officially over. Rein tells the team he's got a plan, but he needs to get within punching distance of Blackbeard. Tanya points out she can't fly him there because the demon pets are clogging the airspace. Suddenly, Nina teleports in, announcing that she's joining the Save the World club today. The others remember that demigods have a few tricks that make them pretty useful in a pinch. Rein leaves the heavy hitters to clear the skies, while he and Nina go after the big boss. Blackbeard tries to swat them out of the air, but Rein dodges like he's in a bullet hell game. He almost gets clipped by a laser, but Nina hits him with a speed buff that makes him a literal blur. Rein gets right in the demon's face and activates his boost, focusing all his mana into one final move. He's putting everything on the line for this one shot against Blackbeard. The demon tries to use his pets as a shield, but Rein decides to hijack the whole system. He starts absorbing the demonic mana to take control of the pets, even though the energy is basically toxic. Rein's body is screaming, but he manages to turn the demon's own army against him. Blackbeard looks like he just saw a ghost. He tries to regain control, but Rein orders the demon pets to initiate self-destruct mode. The demons go boom, and Blackbeard gets taken down by the very beast-taming skills he mocked. Nina is completely drained, but Tanya catches them before they pull a freefall. Against all odds, Rein and his squad save Horizon, standing together as the sun finally starts to peek over the horizon. In the weeks that follow, the city starts its massive rebuilding phase. Stella finally clears out the corrupt knights and starts running a clean ship. The girls help with the construction, while Rein just stares at them in disbelief. He still thinks he's just a basic tamer, but the girls remind him that he's basically the city's MVP. A few days later, Nina approaches Rein, saying she wants to make things official. He's worried about his mana capacity for another legendary contract, but he can't say no to those fox ears. They sign the family pact, and Nina is officially the newest member of the chaotic household. The other girls welcome her with open arms, mostly because they're glad she's safe. Rein stops by the guild and is shocked to see Stella hanging out there. Natalie explains that the knights and adventurers are finally on the same team, with Stella as the new boss. She gives the squad a massive thank you, admitting that without them, the city would be a crater. Then comes the bombshell. Rein has officially been promoted to an S-rank adventurer. He's stuttering in shock, while Natalie reminds him that soloing a high-tier demon tends to look good on a resume. She also hints that the paycheck for this mission is going to be absolutely astronomical. Natalie meets Nina and immediately gets a case of the cute aggression over the new recruit. She realizes Nina is a demigod, which just makes the squad's power level even more ridiculous. Later, Rein points out that their current living situation is getting a little cramped for 6 people. Natalie suggests they just buy a mansion since they're basically swimming in gold now. The girls love the idea, and Rein spends the day being dragged from one property to another. He's exhausted by house hunting, but the girls still have plenty of energy. Natalie saves the best for last, a massive estate that looks perfect but has a suspiciously low price tag. Turns out the house is haunted, and Canade's one true weakness is apparently spooky ghosts. Nina tries to be the brave one, while Natalie explains the ghost is mostly just a prankster. Canade is vibrating with fear, but the rest of the group is surprisingly chill about the hauntings. Rein figures they can handle a little ectoplasm and decides to take the house for a test drive. Natalie nopes out of the tour, wishing them good luck with their new roommate. They step inside and start exploring the dusty halls of their new potential home. As soon as they hit the living room, the furniture starts doing its own interpretive dance. Canade is screaming, and Rein jokes that they've officially stepped into a B-list horror flick. Then a ghost pops out and tells them to get out of her house in her best spooky voice. The twins try to delete the spirit with a nuke, but the ghost is surprisingly good at dodging astral nukes. They start winding up a second shot, and the ghost realizes she's about to be permanently evicted. Tanya notices the ghost can't actually hurt them, so the spirit is just targeting Canade because she's the easy mark. Eventually, Canade snaps and manages to punch the ghost with physical attacks. Don't ask how that works. The twins set up a magical barrier so their new spooky friend can't escape the living room. Tanya checks on Canade, who is currently seeing stars after her fight or flight response kicked in. Rein steps in and casually mentions that he's actually learned how to tame ghosts too. He proves the spirit has no control anymore, and the ghost finally gives up the act. Rein gives her his best "nice to meet you" smile, and the ghost starts to think he's actually okay. She says her name is Tina, and that she's been haunting the joint for about 30 years. Tanya asks for the backstory, and Tina admits the previous owner was a real piece of work who murdered her. Rein asks Canade if she's okay with a ghost roommate, and she says she'll try not to scream every morning. The girls see the rescue look in Rein's eyes and just start smiling. They knew this was coming. Rein asks Tina if she wants to quit the solo haunting and join the family. Tina is stunned by the offer, but the girls explain that Rein has a habit of collecting powerful outcasts. Rein tells her he's looking forward to the move-in day, and Tina actually looks happy for once. Fast forward a few days, and the contract is officially signed and notarized in Mana. Canade tells Natalie the news, and they start throwing a little goodbye to the inn party. Natalie is genuinely happy that Rein finally found a place where he belongs. Elsewhere, the heroes are busy bullying a local farmer for free groceries like common thugs. The man tells them he's got nothing left to give, but Aloes doesn't care. He starts shouting that the village owes them everything for being the chosen ones. But the farmer stands his ground, and it turns out the whole town is done with Aloes' ego. Aloes has a temper tantrum and destroys the man's vegetable stand before storming off. The hero leaves the area, looking like a petty child who didn't get his way. The residents just roll their eyes, saying they don't need fake heroes when Rein is around. Back at the mansion, Rein is being showered with gifts from the locals, while Canade welcomes him home. Dinner is a massive feast, mostly cooked by Sora, who is apparently a closet 5-star chef. Canade and Tanya are ready to dive in before the prayer is even finished. Nina gives Rein a tearful thank you, saying she finally feels like she's part of a group. Rein thinks back to the day his first home burned down and he was left with nothing. He realizes that these 5 chaotic girls have managed to give him a reason to stay. The empty spot in his chest is finally full of something other than regret. Then, out of nowhere, he starts crying happy tears like a complete mess. He's embarrassed by the waterworks, but he can't really help it. The girls are worried, but he just tells them to start eating before the roast gets cold.